Welcome to the Daily English Podcast. In today's episode, we brought in a teacher to talk about how to study English using ready-made phrases.
Hello, I'm Teacher Anna, and today I'll be sharing some tips on how to learn English with ready-made phrases. When we start learning English, it can be tempting to focus only on individual words, like learning vocabulary lists. After all, we know each word has a specific meaning, and this seems like the most direct way. But studying only individual words may not be enough to help you communicate fluently. That's where the importance of learning with phrases comes in. Studying English with phrases allows you to see how words are actually used in everyday life. With phrases, you learn the structure of the language and can see the words in action. For example, you don't just learn the word thank, but you see how to use it in context. Thank you for your help. By studying with phrases, you understand how to express gratitude in a complete and natural way. Another benefit of learning with phrases is that it helps build confidence when speaking. When you learn an entire phrase, it's easier to remember than if you had to put together each word when speaking. Think of phrases as building blocks. You can learn a structure all at once and use it whenever you need it. Phrases like, can I have, or I would like, help you ask for something in English without having to think about each detail of the grammar. By studying with phrases, you also practice fluency. When you know how to say an entire phrase without needing to pause to think, it makes your speech sound more natural. Imagine you already know how to say, how are you, or nice to meet you. You can start a conversation in English more smoothly, without fear of making mistakes. So remember, learning phrases goes beyond just memorizing. You're building a set of language tools that will be very useful in real-life situations. Each phrase you learn is another step towards speaking more naturally and confidently in English. When you study English with phrases, you're not only learning words, but also how they connect to form a logical structure. In English, words change position and meaning depending on the structure of the sentence. For example, by learning the phrase, what time is it? You're absorbing the word order to ask questions correctly, and this structure can be applied to other questions with what, like, what is your name? Often, set phrases in English contain expressions and terms that are common in daily life, but may be hard to translate literally. For instance, the phrase, it's up to you, is a common expression, and learning the entire phrase makes it easier to understand without needing to search for the exact translation of each word. In addition, expressions like, I don't mind, or let's get started frequently appear in conversations, and learning them helps in communicating more naturally. Studying complete phrases helps with memory because our brains tend to remember words better when they're associated with a full idea or context. Instead of memorizing just like, you can remember a phrase like, I like coffee. Repeating full phrases allows you to memorize patterns and develop a sort of language reflex. You respond without needing to think about each word. This increases your fluency and confidence when speaking. Learning English with phrases is also a great way to practice pronunciation and the rhythm of sentences. In English, words aren't always pronounced the same way when they're isolated and when they're part of a phrase. For example, in what do you want? We often hear it as, what I want. This happens because words blend together when we speak naturally, creating the rhythm of the language. By studying phrases, students practice this blending of words and learn the correct intonation and rhythm. Many English learners find it difficult to form sentences because they feel unsure about grammar or word meanings. Learning set phrases helps manage this insecurity because it lets you borrow phrases that already work and are correct. If a student learns the phrase, could you help me? They can use it in many situations without worrying if it's right or wrong. This process helps build confidence, especially for beginners. Studying English with phrases puts students in contact with the way people actually speak daily, not just a dictionary version of words. Phrases that start with can you, do you want, or would you like appear all the time in English conversations. So, by learning entire phrases, the student can practice the language more closely to reality, understanding and using common expressions in situations they may actually experience. Learning English with phrases helps understand grammar without having to memorize rules. By seeing phrases like, she is going to the store, the student observes word order and the use of is going to without needing a formal grammar explanation. This practical exposure allows the student to internalize grammar by repetition and observation, which is more natural than just learning rules. Studying English with whole phrases, not just individual words, provides context, builds confidence, and helps students understand the natural flow of speech. Over time, you'll notice it's easier to remember what to say and how to say it because your brain is already accustomed to the language's structure. Therefore, when studying English, remember that learning complete phrases isn't just effective, it's a smart way to learn to communicate. This practice will help you speak English with more naturalness, confidence, and fluency.
Okay, so you know how we're always digging into these kind of unconventional language learning ideas?
Right.
Well, this one you sent over about learning English with pre-made phrases, especially for beginners.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this is one of the more interesting ones.
Well, totally.
It's like from this snippet of a Portuguese text.
Okay.
It's called texto calado.
Texto calado. All right.
I mean, have you ever come across this kind of approach before?
You know, I haven't really.
Because it's like flipping the script on how we usually think about tackling a new language.
Yeah, it's like forget the vocab lists and the grammar drills, right? It's saying maybe those are actually holding us back, especially when you're just starting out.
So are we saying ditch the textbooks altogether then?
Not necessarily, but maybe just put them on the back burner for a bit. You know, texto calado is all about diving straight into phrases.
All phrases.
Yeah, like think about how we learned our first language.
Well,
We didn't start with flashcards, did we?
I guess not.
It was all about hearing those chunks of meaning,
Right.
figuring out the pieces later.
Well, we're kind of tapping back into that natural way of learning.
Exactly. And you know, the source actually lays out some pretty compelling benefits to this whole phrase-first approach.
Yeah, what are those?
Well, for starters, it's all about context.
Context, okay.
Instead of just memorizing a word like get,
Right.
you learn it within a phrase like, how do I get to?
Oh, I see.
So you're not just getting the word, you're getting the whole how to use it package.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's less about theoretical knowledge and more about being able to actually use it.
Exactly. It's about functionality, and that ties right into the next big benefit,
Which is?
confidence.
Ah, okay.
Picture this. You're in a new city, you need directions.
I've been there.
You've got that phrase, how do I get to, tucked away in your brain.
Ready to go.
It's like a cheat code.
It beats trying to build a sentence from scratch in a panic.
Totally. It takes the pressure off.
So no more deer in the headlights moments.
Exactly. And, you know, the source also points out that repeating these phrases, it actually helps build fluency, and it cements them in your memory.
So it's like muscle memory almost.
Kind of like practicing a dance move over and over. The more you do it, the smoother it gets.
And that's where that sneaky grammar learning comes in, right?
You got it.
You're absorbing those grammatical structures without even realizing it.
You're learning by immersing yourself in the rhythm of the language.
Okay, but I know there are some folks out there thinking,
Yeah.
hold on, isn't this a little like cheating? Shouldn't I be hitting the grammar books first?
It's a fair question, right? But isn't the point of learning a language to actually communicate?
That's the goal.
This approach gets you talking from day one.
Right.
And as you get more comfortable, then you can dive deeper into the nitty-gritty grammar stuff.
So it's like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah, you don't study the physics of balance first, you just hop on and start pedaling.
Get those training wheels off.
Exactly, it's about taking action.
It's about getting those conversational wheels turning.
Exactly.
Now, this whole idea, it's really got me thinking.
Yeah.
Like, could we apply this learning in context thing to other skills?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Even complex systems.
It's like thinking outside the language box.
It definitely makes you wonder.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
Lots to ponder.
Lots to ponder.
For sure.